Welcome to Get Real America.
Happy Halloween.
I'm Brittany Brown.
I'm Bill Edwards, and welcome aboard to Get Real America, where we get real. We tell you the whole iceberg, not just the tip of it.
Yes.
Glad to have you aboard.
And Halloween is a very special time of year here in Savannah because we are the most haunted city in America, which is really crazy. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on, Bill, for the children tonight. I know a lot of people trick-or-treated on Saturday, which probably makes sense since most kids have to get up and go to school tomorrow.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of community centers that are actually doing some trunk or treats and some little haunted houses. So Carver Center, they're doing a haunted house and a candy grab from 4:30 to 6:30 tonight. Cloverdale Community Center is doing a Halloween Fest from 4 to 6. And then we have Liberty City Center and Tatumville Center doing a candy grab and go from 4 to 7. You know, for the adults, you can definitely check out Bar Julian, I think is what it's called, Julian Bar. And from 8 to midnight, they are doing like a costume contest thing. Pretty fun. I will not be going to that because it is a work night. It goes till midnight. That's probably not happening. But they are having a costume contest, so kind of fun for you guys if you want to go out on the town for Halloween. And the last night of 4 nights of Halloween with Shannon Scott at the Bonaventure Cemetery is also tonight. So lots of things.
That is amazing. I've been to the one at Bonaventure on several occasions, and it is so interesting. It is so educational. And they have, in the past, they've had people who are, actors who will be the person that's buried at a particular site. They'll tell you about themselves. They'll give you their history. A lot of famous people are buried in Bonaventure, and it's really, really something. It is a lot of fun to go to, and I highly recommend it. And there are also ghost tours that we have in this town. Several of the churches are doing trunk or treats as well. So you can find something somewhere. If you can't, then you're just a dull person. Just stay home and give out candy to the kids.
Right. Well, I wish that I got trick-or-treaters, Bill, but I have never lived in a place where I get trick-or-treaters, even as a kid, because we lived in a rural area.
Well, you've come to the right place.
I know.
If you want company for Halloween.
Right? I want trick-or-treaters. I don't want ghosts. So we'll just be clear on that.
We might have both.
Yes.
And you're right. My wife, there's a retired orthopedic surgeon that my wife worked for once upon a time. She was an X-ray tech some years back, and he'd lived in what's considered one of the most haunted houses in Savannah. And he said to this day there are things that go on there that he just can't explain.
So he still lives there?
Oh yeah.
Oh
yeah.
What? So does he know?
I ain't afraid of no ghosts. I
was going to say, does he know the history of the house?
Yeah.
Does he know the history of the house, like who it could be haunting him?
We've never gone into that, no, really. But it goes back so far that you don't, that there are some people that you just don't know who were there. But there are all sorts of fascinating stories. But they find some not the furniture rearranged, but they will come back and glasses and all will be in different places, and it's kind of strange. But they've learned to live with it, and it's not poltergeist. It's they're friendly ghosts so far.
Doing some jokes.
Yeah,
I like that.
yeah.
I probably could live with that.
There are plenty of them. And my mom gave tours at the Gordon Low House, and he was a colonel in the Army, and there were several people. She never saw anything, but she said there were several people that she worked there with who said they saw the colonel on several occasions. They'd open the door to his library, and he'd be sitting there at his desk, and he would just look up, and then all of a sudden nothing. There are just too many people that have, and the ghost tours that I have, guys that have run ghost tours. A friend of ours came down from Ohio some years ago and was giving the walking tours. And one of the places they went to, considered the most haunted building, is the Moon River Brewing Company downtown on Bay Street. And he would, they went up to the third floor. There's offices and things of that nature. But once upon a time, it was a ballroom. And he'd come back down, and they'd be sampling the beer. So since it's a brewing company, they brew their own beer, so they give out samples to the tourists. And people would start coming up to him. And at first, he thought it was just a joke, or some people. But it happened too many times. And of course, these tours, nobody knows anybody else. As a general rule, these are all visitors, and from anywhere from Boise, Idaho, to Tallahassee, Florida, or something. So they don't know each other. And they would come up and say, "Who was the lady in the antebellum skirt upstairs?" And he said, and he was thinking like, there wasn't any lady in an antebellum skirt. So
Creepy stuff, Bill.
Yeah.
Creepy stuff, but kind of a fun experience, I'm sure. One that you will never forget. So that's fun. There's a lot going on,
yes,
and
there is. And before we get any further, let me just say that we had the passing of a legend. I haven't seen as much of this on national television as I thought we would, but maybe some of the sports guys have talked about it. But I thought for sure that some of the programs on Fox or Newsmax over the weekend would have a tribute to Vince, just a little segment on Vince Dooley. What a legendary coach that he was. What he did to turn the Georgia football program around, because when he took it over, it was in the doldrums.
well, the funny thing that I learned about Vince Dooley is that he went to Auburn.
Oh, yeah.
So he was not born and bred a Bulldog, but definitely came a lifetime Bulldog after he took that coaching position.
Born in Mobile, Alabama.
Yep.
And he went as a quarterback at Auburn. Did very well. Worked with a guy named Irk Russell, who also became his chief assistant coach at Georgia for a number of years before he was recruited away by Georgia Southern when they restarted their football program. And I happened to be part of that, and that was one of the most fantastic parts of my broadcast career, was doing the Irk Russell show for 9 years with Georgia Southern football.
Oh, that's fun.
But Vince not only turned that program around. I mean, it became literally a legend. A record of 201, 77, and 10. Back once upon a time, you actually played to a tie. You didn't try to break ties in those days. But that is an all-time SEC record. And of course, he won the 1980 national championship when they beat Notre Dame in the Sugar Bowl. And he was just and one of the nicest people that you'd ever. Now, I grew up a Yellow Jacket. My dad played on the Georgia Tech Rose Bowl team, the only one they ever had. So I grew up a Georgia Tech fan, not a Georgia fan. And as a sportscaster for over almost 25 years, covered Georgia football on numerous occasions. Vince Dooley was one of my favorite people to talk with, an interview. He never ducked an interview, no matter how poorly Georgia played. He was a perfect gentleman. He didn't try to duck the press when they had a bad game. He probably took more of the blame on himself than he should have. But he was always available, always pleasant. When speaking at quarterback clubs or any other civic club, he always gave a great speech, told great stories, and had great stories to tell. And he was just a first-class gentleman. And he really was not only a student of football, he was a student. He went to all these, and he said, why would you, if you're coaching at a great university like Georgia, why wouldn't you take advantage of all the classes that are available? He went to all sorts of history classes and math classes, and then became quite a gardener.
Oh, interesting.
Wrote books on gardening and everything else. And I have to ask his wife, Barbara, what do you think of his second career? She says, well, it keeps him out of the house. So, God bless you, Vince. Go with God.
Yes, and I think we have a tribute to him that we have right here.
Yeah, let's take a look.
I'm Herschel Walker, and I approve this message.
I admired Herschel from the beginning. Herschel has always been challenged about doing things that people thought he wasn't capable of doing. He wants to be the best, and he has striven to do that, discipline himself.
And we're on green screen. Well, we have what's going on today?
Well, at least we had the spot that he did for Herschel, shortly before he died, and just what a terrific gentleman. Because and Vince was one of those people that he took over as athletic director after being the head football coach for so many years. I think 1964 to 1988, and then and Georgia athletics overall, their gymnastics team is legendary. And so they've all of their everything that he put his hands on, he really had the Midas touch.
Hey, that's fantastic, and I think that sometimes we don't realize the impact that a coach can have on people's life.
I know.
And I actually had a coach that changed my whole trajectory of my life. I was on drill team in Utah, and she's still a wonderful human. She's still coaching, which I think is amazing. But I think the things you learn from a coach and the discipline you gain from being a part of a team is just unfounded. And I don't think that coaches get enough credit for what they've done and how they've changed so many players' lives and what they're able to accomplish in their life due to their coaching.
Well, they may not, but I'll tell you, the players do. A lot of them, they said that was my second dad. And of course, the single mom families that we have these days, sometimes it's their only dad. But
Yes.
they will say that the most influential person on their lives was their coach. And they do that. And I remember the first female commander at Parris Island, and so far the only one, Laurie Reynolds. She came here as a brigadier general. She retired, I think, just a few years ago as a lieutenant general. And I did an interview with her. I said, "Did you ever think when you graduated from Annapolis that you were going to be you'd be commander at Parris Island, an iconic place like that?" And she said, "That was a bridge too far." That never crossed her mind till it actually happened. But she was a delight to talk with, and she said that one of the reasons that she wanted to go, when she went into the Navy, she didn't know whether she wanted to be a sailor or a Marine. And she said her basketball coach.
More than any other sport, college football is a world built by and known for the legends that stalk its sidelines. None was bigger, kinder, or more intertwined in the identity of his team than Vince Dooley. Dooley actually played for and graduated from Auburn, but in 1963, when one of his alma mater's biggest rivals came calling with a head coaching job, 31-year-old Vince Dooley said yes and became a Georgia Bulldog for life. Over 25 seasons, Dooley won 201 games, 6 SEC championships, and the 1980 national title. From 1979 until 2004, he also served as athletic director, a post he held for more than a decade and a half after stepping down as coach. But those who knew Vince Dooley don't talk about stats, wins, or trophies. They talk about the man, the leader, the husband and father, the legend who never acted like one, who remained a mainstay on campus his entire life, constantly seeking to educate himself and everyone around him. To many of us, his lasting image will be the last time we saw him, 9 months ago in Indianapolis, standing on the field among the people he loved most as they celebrated another national title together. Vince Dooley, a damn good dog.
What a gentleman! They've got they have the shirts now, the damn good dog that they are selling as well. So Vince, go with God. What a wonderful tribute to a wonderful gentleman, all the way around. Great wife, great kids, great family. What a terrific guy. And as I was mentioning about General Reynolds just a moment ago, she said that she decided to become a Marine, but her basketball coach set the example. He had been a Marine, and she liked the demeanor, she liked the swagger, she liked so she made a name for herself. So coaches mean so much to us, and like you said, they don't get the credit, Brittany, that they deserve in many cases, because they leave a legend. And it's teachers to a degree never die. The lives that they touch on so many occasions are and they never know. Many times, they're surprised that 20 years later, some student will come back and say, "Thank you, Mrs. Smith, for what you did for me, because you did so and so," and they're like, "I did that?" They don't even realize you're doing it.
Right. They're just good people that
amazing.
are teaching lessons to people and don't understand how big of an impact they may or may not have on someone. So
hope you're enjoying Monday as much as we are here in the studio out there. So
yes, and it is Halloween, Bill. So
Yeah.
we do have, when we get back, we have a quick interview with a local gal who has been doing tours in Savannah for 20 years.
Let's see that.
Let's
That's
see that
coming
when
up.
we get back.
Happy Halloween.
my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Have the courage to say to our enemies, there is a price we will not pay, there is a point beyond which they must not advance.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. We choose to go to the moon.
Believe that life is so dear and peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery.
I don't want to pay 1 penny more in taxes.
And I don't want to pay a 1% on everything we buy.
Wait a minute, is that what T-Splosh is?
It is. Vote no to T-Splosh.
The last 3 years, Georgia's been tested in ways we could never imagine. And it fell to Governor Brian Kemp to successfully lead us during these troubling times. Georgia is still first in the nation for business. Our unemployment rate is the lowest in state history. Today, people come to Georgia to succeed, start a business, raise a family. Kemp has always backed the blue, stopping the radical left from defunding local police. He passed a tough new election integrity bill that, as the governor likes to say, made it easy to vote and hard to cheat. And while some during COVID-19 shut down their economy, Kemp kept our schools and businesses open while keeping Georgians safe. A long list of accomplishments: fighting human trafficking, increasing teacher pay, greater access to quality health care. A governor who works for Georgians. All of us. Governor Brian Kemp.
Welcome back to our special Halloween edition. And today I have Adriana Norman. She has been doing tour guides in Savannah for over 20 years. So I'm excited to have her here. She knows a ton of history, and I'm sure she has some ghost stories she'd like to share with us.
I've done almost every type of tour in Savannah. I think the exception being I have not given trolley tours. But I recently gave a tour to the guys from Pawn Stars.
Oh, really?
And that was a lot of fun. That was probably my favorite in recent history. They were all really nice, and we got to go around the city a bit. I got to share some information and talk to them a bit. So that was a lot of fun.
That is really fun. Were they were down to earth and very cool?
They were, yes.
That's awesome. Well, do you have a lot of celebrities that you've been able to do tours with? Never thought about it.
A handful. Usually they kind of book on the sly.
Yeah. Tell us your favorite ghost story.
My favorite ghost story. And there was one night where I was kind of trying to get everybody out and downstairs, and I was doing one final sweep of the upstairs just to make sure I hadn't left anybody up there. So I got about to the middle of the building, and I heard two men arguing, like very violent, very loud. And of course I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to break up a fight. They've had too much to drink, and they're just from separate groups, and they're mad. So I take off running. I burst into the room that the voices are coming out of. Voices cut off. Room is completely empty. I turned on the light. I looked under stuff to make sure it wasn't somebody hiding and trying to trick me. Nobody was there. And I was alone upstairs. The manager wasn't even in their office. Nobody was there. So it was a little spooky. It was probably my most extreme, one of my most extreme experiences. I'm not very sensitive to spirits. I sometimes wish I were, and then I remember that I live in the most haunted city in the country.
Probably not a good idea.
And then I say, no, I'm good.
So have you had anyone on your tours have an experience that has freaked them out?
Oh, yes. Again, Moon River. I had one lady almost in tears because she said she could feel the spirits, and they were it was a woman that was so upset, and she was lost, and she needed a place to be, and this woman was in tears on my tour, and I was like, I don't know what to do for you. Can I take you out of here? I've had people's electronics drain. A woman was trying to take pictures up in Moon River, and her battery went down, her phone shut off, would not shut back on. She ended up taking it to the phone store the next day.
So if you want to have a haunted experience, the number one place you would recommend is Moon River Brewing.
It's an old hotel. It was from 1821, and the building itself above the first floor is unrestored because of hauntings, and it's kind of a hotbed because almost everybody who works there has got a story. And when I used to give haunted pub crawls, I would take tours up there and up to the second floor to, show them around and tell them stories.
Lots of scary places. What about any of the squares?
Wright Square was the hanging square. That's also where the first cemetery was. It's now under buildings.
Oh, interesting.
So that is said to be haunted by Alice Riley, the first woman who was hanged in Georgia.
All this history right here in Savannah that you don't ever know about unless you have a great tour guide.
Goodness, it's said that Spanish moss does not grow anywhere that innocent blood is shed. So if you look up at any of the squares, some of the squares don't have any Spanish moss on them. It makes you think a little bit. Wonder what happened there.
Yeah, that is interesting. I have not heard that, but I'll have to take a look. I believe we have 23 squares here. Is that right?
22 out of the 24. The two remaining, Liberty and Elbert Square, are underneath structures. Elbert Square is underneath the Civic Center.
What are some spooky things people can do in Savannah for Halloween?
Things. Well, certainly Halloween is great for people watching in Savannah. Because half of us wear costumes anyway on a regular day, so.
That's awesome. I have loved Savannah. I think it's so wonderful, but I've heard a lot of spooky things, and I don't know if you mentioned it or not, but what is Savannah known for?
We are the most haunted city in the U.S. as of, I think, 2002. There was, in fact, every year, I never hear about it until either it's happening or it's over. There's a parapsychological conference. People from the American Parapsychological Institute, Duke University, people from all over can basically come and ghost hunt at this convention. I had some people a couple years back who were in town for it, and they took my tour, and they had their little equipment. They were ghost hunting around town, and I said I wanted to be involved with that.
Well, you're braver than I am. I'm like, I think I'm going to leave that stuff alone. I think it's fun to hear the history and the ghost stories. And, if you're looking for a tour guide, she's your gal. She's been doing this for over 20 years, and I think that we will have her back to tell more ghost stories and also more history about Savannah. So thank you so much for being here today, Adriana. We appreciate it, and we'll be right back.
I didn't know we had a studio audience.
It just depends on the day. They could all be ghosts. We don't know.
Well, that's true.
It's Halloween.
Yeah.
More than any other sport, college football is a
The
world
amazing
known
thing about
by
this is
and known for
that
the legends that stalk its sidelines. None is bigger, kinder, or more intimate
Coach
than
Dooley
the
trivia in the
Athletics.
background here.
we certainly do. We've got ghosts here already. The amazing thing is that she mentioned we talked about Moon River Brewing Company, and they had people quit. They've had a waitress will be walking. I'm sorry, a server walking across the room with a tray of drinks, and all of a sudden, some force will come in and just sweep the drinks off the tray. And so they've actually had people actually quit their jobs there. It is an amazing place.
So if you're looking for an experience, go get a job at Moon River.
Yeah,
You will have an experience.
That's it. When a friend of mine that lived at Tybee, when he first moved down here, and he didn't believe in this ghost stuff, and he had it was like a 3-story place. There are not too many of those on Tybee, and he kept going. He kept finding there was a little closet upstairs, and that had one of those latches that you physically had to pick this thing up, slide it across. You've seen those latches, of course.
Yes.
They're as old as the hills. So he kept finding this thing unlocked, and he knew he had locked it. And so he goes up one night, and he goes up and he finds it unlocked again, and he locks it. He's about halfway down the hall, and he hears it unlock again. And once again, this is one of those things you really have to lift this up and pull it across, or one way or the other. And so he decided to find another place to live.
I mean, I don't blame him. That stuff is pretty spooky, Bill.
It is.
Pretty spooky.
And if you know what also has been interesting about this town, because we've had a lot of wars here. The second bloodiest battle of the Revolutionary War, the Battle of Savannah, was fought here. Hence the name Battle of Savannah. It doesn't take me long to figure this stuff out. But there were Civil War battles. There were other, and we cemeteries all over. And digital cameras now capture more sometimes than just a picture. People have taken pictures, and there's somebody else standing there with them, like a Civil War soldier or something. There are others where you just see these bright streaks here and there that they call orbs. That they're near these cemeteries and things. It's there's something to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I know people that have had these experiences with ghosts that I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, I believe in ghosts, Bill. Like after hearing people's stories and
I've never had an encounter with one that I know of, but I too many other people that are calm, sane,
rational people.
Absolutely. And the unbelievers, as it were.
Yeah.
Like you said, the guy that was doing these ghost tours, he didn't believe in any of that stuff until all these people started coming up to him. Who was that lady upstairs? No, it ain't a lady upstairs.
Oh my goodness. So, I mean, that's the thing. If you live in Savannah, there's probably plenty of places you can go to get a ghost story for yourself. I have heard that the Pink House is also fairly haunted as well.
Yeah.
And they have such a good menu, and
oh yeah.
I mean, the wait is long. I mean, make sure you make your reservation months in advance.
Yeah,
but
the food is sensational.
So good. So food and ghosts. What more could you ask for in a city, really?
And thank God we got to save the Pink House. There was a fire, Christmas tree up on the ballroom floor, caught fire 2-3 years ago, and they caught it rather quickly, but they had to close for almost 9 months.
The fires around here are getting these restaurants, Bill.
And we lost pearls. That's I am just heartbroken about that.
Bill still can't talk about it.
I just drove by the other day, and they haven't. Apparently, they're not going to rebuild the place.
They're not.
There haven't been any progress so far. And I remember the owner said, took this ad out, saying thanks for 30 years or 32 years or something. So.
I don't love that, Bill. We'll
I
have
don't
to
either.
dig into that, ask some questions, figure out what's going on there. But you did have an interesting conversation with someone, and we're going to look at that when we get back. I believe his name was Noah Ring.
Yeah.
Let me tell you guys something. Every time I go out to speak, everybody want a sound bite. I'm going to give you a sound bite really quick. I'm sick and tired of people putting this country down. They want to ask me why I'm running. Let's be real. I'm sick and tired. You look at the economy, you look at the gas prices. You can't buy a grocery now. It's time for us to wake up. It's time for me to get out and fight. Because I'm going to tell you, I love to win. I said, put me in the game, coach. I'm ready to play. If you ever seen me play, I can play. Have you ever seen me fight, I can fight. No matter how hard they come, how hard I can fight. I'm sick and tired of this. Tell your friends to get out and vote. I'm not here to be a politician. I'm here to be a warrior. Protect this country, protect our citizens, and protect our kids. No weapon formed against me shall ever prosper. Boom! That's it, baby!
do absolutely agree that it's racist. It is a redux of Jim Crow in a suit and tie.
America has a long history of systemic racism.
You ain't black.
America has a pre-existing condition. It's called racism.
Senator Warnock believes America is a bad country full of racist people. I believe we're a great country full of generous people. Warnock wants to divide us. I want to bring us together. I'm Herschel Walker. I approve.
Welcome back to Get Real America. I'm Bill Edwards, and it is time for some shop talk, shall we say. Noah Ring is with us, and he is a student and also a talk show host himself, right down the coast of the Golden Isles in the Brunswick area. And Noah, welcome aboard. What brings you to town, for one thing?
Well, I was driving home on the way back from UGA. Go Dogs, reigning national champions. I think we're going to do it again. And Dean Burnett, as you know, very involved. He said, "Hey, we have this thing going on." I said, "Dean, I would love to stop by and get interviewed by a coastal legend, Bill Edwards, and always glad to help out independent media sources, because I think you and I can both agree certain huge conglomerates don't do local Savannaians or much of anywhere else justice."
Boy, that's the truth. Now you started when? I mean, you're a relatively young man here. How did your radio career get started?
Yeah, so it started a couple of years ago when I had a podcast at the time, Let Freedom Ring, and I was doing all these things. I was interviewing people, mostly state reps and congressional candidates that had no chance. And throughout the years I was working on it, being dedicated, I was blessed for it to grow. And then people started saying, you should put this on the radio. So I called Wesley Cox down at WCGA 1100. Now it's on the radio. And so it's really just been, I was tired of the myth that my generation has to vote Democrat or else Armageddon will happen. I kind of got my start right after the Parkland massacre, unfortunately. And I was just tired of seeing David Hogg sit and talk about why we must be a Democratic generation. Camera Hogg, absolutely. He actually recently got neutered. He took himself out of the gene pool. So that's God bless America for that one.
There you go. It seems to be the trend these days.
Absolutely.
So and to blossom from this, so you do weekends. How does it work out?
Yeah, so I do 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on 1100 a.m. WCJ, obviously. You can always feel free to listen. We do cover the Savannah market. Especially if you're in the western part. If you come down to downtown Savannah, you guys have way too many radio frequencies. But you can always catch the show afterwards on the podcast feed at Let Freedom Ring, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Spotify, it's everywhere. It's on somewhere called Stitcher. You'll get the analytics, and there's like 300,000 places to listen to podcasts. I don't know who does, but it's everywhere.
So how are things going in school? What are your plans right now? What are you studying, and where do you go from here?
Yeah, I'm not studying too terribly much, Bill, but I'm a marketing major. I've always been a political kid, and I've always wanted to go to law school. But I'll say going into college, I remember I was talking to Attorney General Chris Carr at the time, and he said, you can do a lot of things with a political science degree, but not a lot of those things make money. A lot of those things you can do without a college degree. And so he recommended going into business, which I chose marketing because it seemed interesting. I have about a year left. Thank the Lord. Looking at potentially going to law school, or maybe if this whole radio thing goes off the way we think it can, maybe just doing that full time.
No, I think that what you bring to the table, as much as anything else, is the perspective of your generation, and dispelling some of the myths. We're good at dispelling myths around here. We get warnings from some of the media that carries us, and platforms that carry us, saying we don't want you to spread. You could get in trouble if you're spreading this misinformation about COVID or anything else. But the perspective you bring from your generation, because people do have that stereotypical that you've got to be a Democrat, or you've got to be at least on the left.
Right. No, I mean, we've all heard it countless times. If you are a conservative under the age of 30, you don't have a heart. But if you're a liberal over the age of 30, then you're just brainless. And I think that a lot of people in my generation, and this has been spelled out by Forbes, we are going to be the most conservative generation. I think I don't think that it's a guarantee. I think it's primed. I think the Republican Party has fumbled the bag on it a ton. As
they're good at that.
Yeah, they're really good at that. I don't even know. Someone called me the other day. They said, Noah, what are you hopeful for that the Republican Party will do if they take over? I go, at least they'll stop Democrats, but I mean, they're not going to do anything, and that's the big problem.
Fine would help.
That would be a good start. That would be a great start.
Kind of waiting on that. You know, what gets me is that, and I think that what's been so frustrating for those of us who tried to support these people is that they promise and promise. You know, you just put us in office. Okay, we need a Congress, so we gave them Congress. Well, we really need the Senate, so we gave them the Senate. Well, you know, we really need the presidency. We gave them all three, and now they had the ability. They said they campaigned 3 campaign sessions of getting rid of Obamacare, and didn't think they'd ever get back in power that they did. I mean, you heard Paul Ryan was such a disappointment as Speaker of the House; it was unbelievable. And when it came up for a vote, they caved like a cheap mattress.
Yeah, I mean, everybody blames John McCain for that, but there were two other Republicans who voted no on that, being Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins, which use Republicans lightly in that respect. But no, I think you're right. I think Republicans don't like to do anything. And yeah, sure, I'd rather have the House or the Senate. That way Democrats can't do anything, because when they get in power, they deliver on their promises. Unfortunately, we're living under that. But I think that we need to start pushing it. And I'll tell you a good story. So this was probably late 2019, probably August or September. I got a call from a Michigan number. And I was like, who in the heck is this? And it was a guy named Peter Meyer, who is now a congressman, voted to impeach Trump. We'll get to that in a minute. And he called me and he said, Noah, I've been following you for a year or two on Twitter, which not on there anymore. They kicked me off. I think you're great. I'd love to come on your show. And I'm just started doing a podcast. I'm like, a congressional candidate wants to come on my show. And I tell you what, he was a very good actor. He told me I'm a real true conservative, X, Y, and Z. I checks all the boxes. And I said, you know what? Yeah, I helped him. I tried to help him as much as I could. Obviously, he ended up beating Justin Amash. But it gets to the point where somebody who checks all the boxes still gets up there and 5-6 days into being a congressman votes to impeach somebody over what we now know was, if anything, the idea that was an insurrection to me and that it was Donald Trump's fault. These people who are MAGA gun-toting patriots just happened to forget their guns at home that day if they were going to go storm the Capitol. It's a media narrative lie that has been pushed, that is still being pushed. It was brought up last night at a debate saying Americans care about January 6th. Fact check, they don't.
No, they don't. As a matter of fact, and I think they're trying to make it a national holiday now. So whatever.
I wouldn't doubt it.
And we've still got people in jail who, we let mass murderers out and all that. The people beat up people, kill people on the subway in New York, and they're out the next day. Somebody tries to kill Lee Zeldin, who I hope is going to be the next.
He's got a chance.
New York, yeah, he stands pretty good chance. He's out on his own recognizance the next day. But we have people in solitary confinement from January the 6th who haven't seen their families, haven't had the attorney talk to an attorney or anything of that nature.
Well, it's not even that. The people who finally do get the attorney, there was a young man who was sentenced earlier this week. I can't think of his name. He has Asperger's. He's obviously on the autistic spectrum. And all he did, he smashed 2 windows at the Capitol. Sure, he shouldn't have done that. Okay. Sure. They sought to give him it was 57 months, roughly 5 years in jail for somebody who has a mental illness, for somebody whose brain obviously does not work the way that it should work. They wanted to send him to jail over the over the recommended guidelines. Luckily, the judge stepped in and said, I'm not going to do this. And he's getting house arrest, even though he's already spent the last roughly year in jail anyway. And so Tucker had a very good point on it the other day. If you read these not a blog, these actual court cases and what the prosecutors are saying, they're trying to lock people up for thoughts. They're thinking extremely. It's crazy. If you are on YouTube, go back to Tucker Carlson's monologue from just a few days ago, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But it's dangerous.
I don't know how much money we spend, Noah, on the professors of diversity or these directors of diversity at our institutions. I understand that the smallest salary we were able to find was like $400,000, and it's diversity of color, but they don't want diversity of thought.
Right. I can tell you that firsthand. No, it's so taking a step back from there. So UGA and CCGA, which is just down the road in St. Simons, and I'm sure other colleges that I didn't even see as well in the state of Georgia, hired RuPaul's drag bingo night UGA paid him $4,000. CCGA paid him, from what I heard, about $3,000. We are feeding this in. And sure, look, I don't care that. Go do what you want to. I don't want to go there. But the difference is the UGA one, my tuition dollar subsidized, your tax dollar subsidized, because they go to the schools. It subsidized this. And look, if some club on campus wanted to do it, that's fine. But to make it to where taxpayers and college students have to pay this, it gets into the bigger point where it's also, why is it that only the liberal, what the liberals want are subsidized by either the government or who somebody's forced to pay for it? And also, I mean, it's kind of shame on Sonny Perdue for allowing this to happen. I mean, I led Students for Sonny to try and get him confirmed as chancellor. And look, I respect Sonny Perdue. I honestly don't think he knows about this, but I think that we need to start taking steps to try and eradicate this degeneracy from campus.
Yeah, Sonny'd be terrific.
Well, he is terrific. He's doing a good job. He cut out like 70 majors that are just useless, and then they added a diversity and inclusion minor at CCGA. So I guess you win some, you lose some. But
explain it. I'm not familiar with the RuPaul extravaganza or
yeah. So I mean, these people come in and they're drag queens, and they basically just host bingo. And I'm not even sure what it's for, honestly. But the schools pay them, like I said, upwards of $4,000 or $5,000 to come. Again, not something that I think should be funded. I mean,
charge admission.
Charge admission. I mean, so I'm very involved with Turning Point USA. I'm an ambassador, and I go speak at their campuses. Turning Point USA at UGA hosted a guy named Ian Hayworth a couple of weeks ago. He does the Morning Wire on Daily Wire, everything like that. Very big, outspoken conservative pundit. And Turning Point USA had to reach out to nationals, to various things to get the money to fund him. He was $2,000 to get the money to get him there. Where was UGA kicking in the money? I mean, if they will allow this drag show to be paid for by tuition dollars, why not fund somebody who actually does something good for society?
And then how about the ones that get shouted down, where Ann Coulter has food thrown at her on many occasions, and Tommy Lahren of the University of Mexico here 2 or 3 weeks ago. She was there with Turning Point, and they're out there, the anti-American
Antifa
crowd, the Antifa, the Biden voters are out in the hall destroying property and shouting them down, and so they had to escort them out.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I went on a group once, and we got shouted down. And I'll tell you what, I was kind of hungry, so I was kind of hoping they would throw food at us. But I mean, I'm serious. They could have thrown like a double cheeseburger or something. I'd have been fine with it. But I mean, that gets back to the root point of Republicans, and this is almost to a fault. We support free speech so much that we support the free speech that shuts us down. I'm all for free speech, but I'm also for law and order. And if somebody has paid for an event, like it happens to Ben Shapiro all the time, these people pay large sums of money for these people to come, and then their events are ruined. I mean, I know the University of Florida is looking at banning indoor protesting when Ben Sasse comes to interview to be the president of the University of Florida, which I'll tell you what, I'm not a big fan of Ben Sasse in the Senate.
I'm not either.
And a lot of people are like up in arms that a lot of conservatives are up in arms that he's going to be the next president of the University of Florida. At least he's a conservative. That's the good news. If it's not him, it could have been some huge liberal. So, I mean, I'll take it. And plus, we'll probably put some decently good-sized conservative in that seat who can't be, I mean, I guess they could, but probably won't be worse than Ben Sasse.
Yeah, I didn't know. Until I saw the protesting, I didn't know that Sasse was up for. I knew he wasn't going to run for re-election because I think he's been very, very.
He would have got primaried.
But I didn't know he was up for University of Florida chancellor or president or whatever it is they call them down there. I went to Ole Miss. We had chancellors.
Yeah, it's. I think it's.
I have no idea.
I'm not sure either. I know it's president of the college. Like ours is Jerry Moorhead, and then in Georgia, it's chancellor of the entire system. So again, I don't know the difference. Chancellor just sounds cooler.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sounds much cooler. Yeah,
much better.
President? No, chancellor. Anybody can start a company, become the president of it. You want to be the chancellor. I don't even know what it means.
Yeah. So what's the ultimate for you? What do you? By the way, you mentioned getting a law degree, perhaps.
Potentially, yeah.
I would think on a talk show host this day and age, having a law degree would come in real handy.
I don't think it would hurt. I mean, as we're seeing,
or Ingram has one.
Yeah, I mean, as we're seeing, people like Alex Jones and various other talk show hosts get sued for upwards of $1 billion, it definitely doesn't hurt to know the law and know what you can and can't say. Look, I mean, Alex Jones says wild things, but even I can understand sometimes just quit talking. But I will say I don't know exactly what the ultimate goal is, other than I want to continue fighting for conservatism both on campus and in the culture, because I think that we need to make being a conservative cool again. We have a lot more fun than the Democrats do, I'll tell you that, because I think they just hate their lives, honestly, and that's why they want other people. They're Karens, let's be honest. I want to continue fighting for conservative values throughout the entire, hopefully, rest of my life. Hopefully, it's behind a golden microphone like this, Bill. Mm-hmm. If that's being a lawyer fighting for, in front of the Supreme Court, let's say, or if that's being behind a microphone, or maybe that's running for office. I don't know. I just know if there's a fight to be had for freedom and for liberty and for the Second Amendment, whatever, I want to be on the front lines.
Yeah. We're having fun, enjoying our lives, having a good time, and they're miserable, so they want to make sure, if their motto, I think, is if we're not happy till you're not happy.
Absolutely, and that's what I don't understand. And I think a lot of it is, I understand the New England Democrats being like that because it's always cold and everything, but the Southern Democrats, you guys go to the buffets too. I mean, what are you doing? Like, really? Just have a good time. I don't know.
Thanks for dropping. We're heavily into shameless self-promotion, though, so tell them where to find it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if you're in the area, you can stream it Saturdays from 9 to 11 on WCGA 1100. If you're not in the area, you can catch the podcast feed. The more direct way to get involved is noahring.org.com was taken. They offered to sell it to me for $10,000. I didn't think it was worth it. So noahring.org, O-R-G. You can find the link to my email list. You can find the link to my podcast. Every link you need is right there. If you want to email me, noah@noahring.org. It's very simple. But Bill, thank you so much. It was great.
My pleasure. Honor meeting you, and listen. So share this with your friends.
Absolutely.
All right. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Herschel Walker. I want to endorse Bruce Thompson as our new labor commissioner because he's going to do the best job you've ever seen for the great state of Georgia.
Listen, I'm standing here with the great Herschel Walker. We all know what's happened in our U.S. Senate, and it's time for a change. And I 100% endorse Herschel Walker to represent Georgia and the United States as we take back our country for the people of Georgia and for the United States.
God bless.
Welcome back to Get Real America.
Happy Halloween. I'm Bill Edwards.
I'm Brittany Brown.
And we're glad to have you aboard. Speaking of trick-or-treating, I understand City Council had had quite the Halloween display last week. Brittany?
Bill, I just sat there in awe of this is how we run city council meetings. It was very interesting. I guess I'll go with that.
Unique.
Yes. And I will tell you, it started at 6:30 and did not end until like 9:08. Like, that is way too much.
Good.
They don't have a lot of control.
What are they
over
doing?
the
Showing Gone with the Wind?
I mean, they don't give people time limits. At the beginning of the meeting, It was an hour before we actually got to any of the city business. There were a lot of groups that came in and, had people talk. Sometimes it was for like 5 minutes. You get 10 of those, and, it extends the city council meeting quite significantly. But they didn't put time limits on anyone until they got to the Calhoun Square issue, which, people don't want it renamed. And there are a group of people that have been prodding for the name change. And what's interesting, Bill, is that I don't know what news station the reporter was from, but as soon as they got through all of the pro people for changing the square's name, he left. So he didn't even take video of anyone that was opposing the square or any of their reasoning. But one of the reasons
That's nothing new.
Right. But one of the reasons was because they hadn't followed the process for a renaming, which means that they have to get a certain percentage of the signatures, and they had not met that requirement. So it's illegal for them to change the name of the square based on the rules that are there to prevent people from just changing names of whatever they want. So, which was interesting because also at the city council meeting, Mayor Van Johnson let us know that, the city council owns all of the city names and all of that, and they can change them whenever they want
I'm not
at
sure
their
that
discretion.
I'm not sure that's right. I have to check the bylaws, but I don't think that's right, Van. I'm sorry.
I don't think it is either. I think we'll see more come about this Calhoun Square. I think that we're going to see some very upset citizens. I do think that there could be some injunctions put in. I mean, we'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated as I'm following this story. But I did want to show you a little clip of the shenanigans at the school board meeting, and I want to make you guys aware that these are the people making decisions.
City council meeting.
Oh, city council. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm used to saying school board. City council meeting. But I just want to make you guys aware that these people are the ones making decisions for Savannah, which is
They run your lives.
Yes, it's a wonderful city, and they're all up for re-election next year. So let's take a clip of these two council people. So what's going on here is you can see that there's an interaction between Purdie and
Curtis Purdie.
Yes, and Carter Gibbs, I believe it's
Sheila Gibson. Yeah, coming to me in a second here.
But she's
Carter.
standing up, yes,
Yeah.
putting her finger to him and saying, "I never said that." I mean,
What would he bring up in the first place?
Well, so he brought up that she had actually. Oh, this is someone walking out because they're upset that they decided that they're going to change the names of the city regardless, the name of the square regardless of what people want. So, very interesting. The other thing that I thought was interesting is that Keisha Carter Gibbs, is that right?
Gibson Carter.
Gibson Carter.
Keisha
Oh my
Gibson
goodness,
Carter.
that's
Yeah,
a
there you
mouthful. We got it together, Bill. We got it. But she brought up the fact that she was called a ghetto B word, which Purdie did say he said that, and he apologized. So when it was Purdie's turn, he also mentioned that she had called him a pedophile and the F word. I'm not going to say it because I just don't feel good about saying that, but a derogatory term for someone that is gay. And so, she stood up, "You're a liar," starts yelling at him, where he was silent the whole time while she was speaking about what he had said to her. But my thing is these people are not being professional, Bill. Like, that's not professional. You should not call each other names. You have to maintain a level of professionalism if you're going to work together for the city. And to see this all play out live, it's a circus.
Yeah, especially at a public meeting. You can have all the mess behind the scenes that you want to, but when the lights go on and you're sitting there in front of the public, you're buddy. Okay?
Yeah. And I'm just very disappointed in the way that they behaved. And, Van Johnson could not get them under control. Someone moved to close out the meeting. I don't think you could hear it in this video, but there's another video on our Facebook page where you can clearly hear that people are like, "I moved to close the meeting. I moved to adjourn," because they're trying to shut this down as quickly as possible, because this is embarrassing, Bill. This is, video that anyone can go look at. Savannah is a wonderful city. And there is no reason why we should have elected officials behaving in a manner that it is not beholden to the city of Savannah.
So there's that. And then, so what do we have going forward as we get ready? Governor Brian Kemp, he had another debate last night, the second of their two debates with Stacey Abrams. And it's the first time, Guinness Book of World Records should have been there. It's the first time in history that two sitting governors from the same state were debating each other. Amazing.
For the second time.
Yeah, for the second time. There you go. So, history being made. But he was here last week for a fundraising rally and things of that nature. Had a couple of events here in Savannah. One of them at the Forest City Gun Club. The other one at the Plantation Club. Oh, I'm sorry, the Palmetto Club. I didn't mean to offend anybody. But we had a chance to talk with some of our state legislators while we were there, including Jesse Petrie and Ron Stevens.
And we have a clip from Ron Stevens now.
Ron tells us what he thought of the big rally, as also what's coming up with the Georgia legislature, what's on his agenda.
Representative Ron Stevens here with us. Big event tonight. It looked like, I know that we're going down the home stretch here, that Brian's got this under control, but you can't take anything for granted.
Can't take it for granted. We all got to get out to the polls. Bring your friends, your in-laws, your outlaws. It's, any and everybody you can get to come. This thing is so important. We're all hoping for, of course, a sweep, but you never take it for granted. We've got, the governor mentioned tonight, we're going to be sending back probably another $1 billion back to the taxpayers. In other words, if you pay the tax, we're going to get you another refund instead of the alternative, which is going in and spending it all. We're doing business right. We're cutting taxes, and we're making families appreciate things that a traditional Georgia family should.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you, you got a lot of stuff coming up with the legislature. What's on your priority list right now?
Mainly it's to go back and send some of this money that we've accumulated and keep the economic development initiative and the momentum that we've got. It's just huge for coastal Georgia. Lots of folks are coming here. We just hope they learn how to say y'all and keep some of their political.
I'm just going to say we hope they vote correctly as well. That all the Californians moved up to Oregon because things were getting so bad there, but they kept voting for the same people.
And that's one of the problems they're going to have to deal with. But I think first step first, let's get them to say y'all, and then we'll teach them the right way to live.
And eat boiled peanuts.
And got to have grits and boiled peanuts.
Thanks, Ron. Appreciate it, pal.
My pleasure.
Yes, sir.
State Representative Ron Stevens, just a great guy, pharmacist by trade, and what a delightful gentleman, and always available to us.
Yes, and I think it's important that, he also understands that there are a lot of people moving here, and they might not be able to say y'all or to vote correctly. So I will say I got on board with the boiled peanuts. I have still not gotten on board with the grits.
I don't know why.
I don't know.
Salt and pepper. The great things that you can do with grits, mix it with red-eye gravy. Shrimp and grits is one of the great delicacies of the world. And you can just mix them and match them and all kind of good stuff.
Okay, I'm going to work on the grits.
All right,
I can
do.
say y'all, and I do love boiled peanuts, which I had never even heard of until I got to the South. So.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those, for some people it's an acquired taste, but I had met a guy from Kentucky who'd had them for the first time, and he fell in love with them immediately. And they are absolutely delicious. They have to be done right. You have to have the right amount of salt. You have to have and they have to be nice and soft. They can't be crunchy. So but it is.
There's a science to the boiled peanuts.
Yep, one of the great Southern delicacies. We also have a sport here that's kind of rare that started at Tybee years ago called half rubber. You ever heard it?
No.
Yeah.
What's half rubber?
Well, the guys used to take a one of those rubber balls that you throw back and forth.
Like a dodgeball?
They had on the beach. No, not like a dodgeball. Just a small rubber ball about the size of a baseball.
Okay.
And they cut it in half, and then they threw it kind of like a frisbee, and then you try to hit it. And trying to hit one of those things with a broomstick, and it's just one of those things they invented out on the beach. And it was became real popular recently around these parts. Having grown up here, I thought they played it everywhere, and I started talking to people about it up in Charleston, and they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. So, but it's really fun to watch because trying to hit that thing, and if you do hit it, it's like a football; it could go anywhere. So bouncing around, and so it's a lot of fun. A lot of things going on here in Savannah with the moss-covered oaks and Halloween tonight. There are so many things to do. Make sure that you're with your kids. Make sure that they are, and inspect the candy. Unfortunately, in this day and age, go to neighborhoods that you are familiar with, and make sure that the candy is all sealed, and and everything is most go. We used to have the X-ray machines because we used to have sadists that put razor blades in apples, or in Snickers bars or something like that. So the places like Immediate Med or whatever would stay open, and they'd X-ray the candy. Now we have this with the fentanyl crap that's going around.
Yeah, and it's hard to detect, Bill. So keep your kids safe out there.
Mm-hmm.
Have fun trick-or-treating. I hope you guys will check out a ghost tour and live the life here in Savannah.
There's certainly lots more to talk about, and we'll be talking about it tomorrow as well on the Tuesday edition. So enjoy your Halloween, and we'll see you next month.
Yes, and please check us out on YouTube, Vimeo, Rumble, GRAnewsmedia.com. You can also check us out on Spotify, Apple, or anywhere you get your podcasts. We'll see you tomorrow.